Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Coffman. Welcome to our 28th installment in the Torah portion of the week. We're holding by Parshas Metzora. The Torah starts off here, chapter 14, Parshas Metzora. Torah says, Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, this shall be the law of the Metzora on the day of his purification. He's brought to a Kohen. The Kohen shall go forth to the outside of the camp. Kohen shall look and behold, the tzaras affliction has been healed from the Metzora, etc. So here, Torah says that, gives us detail now what happens when the person has tzaras, right? We spoke about this disease that a person gets when they speak lashon hara, when they speak badly against others. They have to go outside the camp. So now the Torah goes into more detail about the Metzora. So it's an interesting medrash that says Mori Rebbe Rav Agon Moshe Stor Moshe should be well. Brings down in Tam Vadaz on this verse. The Medrash says there was a certain person that sold his wares, and he went around to different cities that were close to where he was, and he would make an announcement and say, "Who wants life?" Right? Who wants life? He would like scream, "Who wants life? Who wants life?" So people, he would say, like, who wants what life to acquire it? So people would, like, push, to get up to him to be able to see, like, okay, I want life. How much does it cost? What do I have to do? So, so people came and said, sell it to me. We'll take it for whatever it is. So he takes out a Sefer Tehillim. He takes out Psalms. And he reads from Psalms. And what does it say in Psalms? He says, who's the man, literally, that desires life? What does it write after that? It says, It says, you guard your tongue from speaking evil, speaking badly, go against evil and do good. So people are screaming, yes, we want life. So he says, you want life? Here, it says an explicit verse in Tehillim. If you want life, anyone who desires life, you should be careful speaking against others. Not only that, you should do good. So one of the rabbis there said, even King Solomon said, he said it in Proverbs, anyone who wants to guard his mouth, and his tongue, right, he should guard it. Right? So that's also a way to get life. So says Rav Yanai. Rav Yanai says, all the years of my life, I read this verse, and I didn't know the extent of what it meant until this person selling his wares came and explained to me. Right? When he came to say, who wants life? And he said over this verse in Tehillim, Rav Yanai said, up until this point, I've read this verse many times, but I didn't understand to the extent that this peddler said it. So, Rabbi says a lot of questions here. First of all, what's the big novelty here? He's coming over and telling you that there's an explicit verse. You want long life? Then you should do good. Be careful from speaking bad. So, if that's true, then why up until this point, Rabbi Yanai didn't get the same understanding as he would have when he went through it before? In other words, the Medrash comes along and tells him, who wants life? Right? Who wants to acquire life? So, he quotes the verse in Tehillim. And Rav Yanai says, up until this point, I never understood really to the extent of what the verse meant until I saw this medrash. So Rebbe asks, well, what didn't he understand? Right? It says explicitly, you want long life. Right? You want life. We'll translate it literally. Right? You desire life. What does it say after that? Guard your tongue from speaking badly against others and do good. What's the big novelty? Right? You mean you read it 100 times, you didn't understand that's what it meant? That a person guard themselves tremendously, give themselves life by being careful how they speak? How can you not understood that? So Rabbi says that Rav Yana understood that if you guard yourself, right? If you guard your soul, that'll save you from difficulties in life. That'll give you long life. So, what specifically will do that? That will be not speaking lashon hara, not speaking badly against others. But what would we have thought? We might have thought that if a person dwells by himself and he stays far away from people, then, that should help him, maybe. Because what happens to the Metzora? Someone who has saras, someone who has this from speaking lashon hara, what does he do? He's set outside the camp. If you sit outside the camp by yourself, you can look at it two ways. In one way, if you're sitting by yourself, then you could think about what you did, and when you think about what you did and what caused you to have saras, that'll make you realize, what you did wrong, and that'll bring you to tshuva, that'll bring you to repentance, and that'll be the end of the story. Right? You got the message. You're put outside the camp. It's a time to be alone, to be with yourself, to realize what you did wrong. Right? That would make sense. But here the peddler is telling you something else. He's selling you on something to save yourself from speaking lashon hara. Not only does this peddler say you should not do evil, you should stay away from evil, but also you shall do good. It says, again, if we look at the verse in Psalms, it says, Nitzor l'shoncha me'ra, sur me'ra v'asei tov. Guard yourself from evil, stay away from evil, and do good. There are two things. Don't do evil, plus do good. That means, what does it mean to do good? That means to learn Torah, keep the mitzvahs, keep the peace between you and others, and that will prevent you from this transgression. That if I do good, not just being alone, right? Being alone is not the only thing over here. So this is what Rav Yana understood. Rav Yana understood, okay, someone who speaks lashon hara, right? In the times of the Torah, what happens? He gets thrown outside the camp, right? Isn't that what happened to Miriam? Right? We'll speak about Miriam in the book of Numbers. Nonetheless, person spoke lashon hara, went outside the camp. So a simple explanation would be alone, think about what you did, have tremendous remorse, regret. You now understand the enormity of your actions. Now, because of that, it should allow you to realize what you did, and that'll get you to do tshuva. But Rabbi says it's something more than that. Right? We have to live in this world. Right? We're not, we don't live in a cave by ourselves. You have to be part of a community. If you're Jewish, you got to be part of the Jewish community. Otherwise, you have a number of issues. You have to pray together. There, could be tragedies. You have to deal with other things. You have to be part of the community. But there's another idea here. Right? The other idea is at the end of the verse. The end of the verse says, don't just stay away from evil, but do good. What does doing good mean? Doing good means be careful how you act. Doing good means learn Torah to the fullest extent. Right? Make peace between you and your friend. So for this, Rav Yanai said, that's the novelty that I learned. In other words, you got to be part of society. You got to work on yourself to be a better person. How do you do that? You only do it by learning. By taking what you learn, making part of a reality, right? The reality of your own life. You take whatever we learn and we envelop it. We think about it. We try and live to the highest standard that we can. So when we do that, and obviously there'd be an obligation to learn Musar, to learn works of ethics, because when you feel like a piece of dirt, it makes you realize what you have to work on. And feeling like a piece of dirt doesn't mean, well, I'm so bad I can never change or whatever, but we realize, we can always be better. We need to change for the better. So if that's true, then that's going to help us when we're in certain situations. For instance, if a person learned, let's say you learn, a certain story, a medrash, whatever it is that, helps you realize, something that motivates you to want to change. So the reality is that if we work on that, and we continue to work on that, then if a certain situation comes along, I'm not going to be affected negatively by it. I'm not going to jump in to speak Lashon Hara, even though everyone else is. And maybe it's a very hot topic. Right? I'm going to stay by the side. Right? They'll say, well, what's your opinion on this? Better to be called a fool in this world, right, than destroy other people. Or speak Lashon Hara. Or do any transgression. Because the reality is, it doesn't matter what this world is. It's just a corridor to the next world. We're worried about the next world. So I should give up my next world, for the sake of, a few juicy bits of information that I should give over or not give over. So that's the idea. The idea is we can combat Lashon Hara and pretty much any other transgression, right? You need a lot of things, right? But the essence is learning Torah, right? It doesn't matter what. You can learn maybe some, not so interesting things. You can come across a piece of Talmud about, damages, and this ox scored that ox, and how much was it worth, and what happened, was it used properly, it wasn't used properly, you might say, it's not so interesting, but it's Torah, it's damages, right? It's something that we can, this is something we can actually relate to, even though we might not have an ox scoring someone else's ox, but let's say a person caused damage, right? Whatever it is, broke someone's door, got in an accident, whatever it is, how much you're going to be liable for. Might be liable for less, for more, maybe for doctor's bills, not for doctor's bills, whatever the case is. So if we make that real, and put our entire being into it, because we realize it's God's law, we realize there's a higher being directing things over here. So once we see that, and we see what damage can cause, so we have to guard ourselves against this to the best of our ability. There's physical damage, there's spiritual damage. Lashon Hara is more difficult because, a person speaks against someone else, they don't drive any real benefit from it, except to make themselves look better. Right? They might say, well, that is a benefit, true, maybe it is. Like, not something tangible. You're not causing them to lose their income. You're not causing them, other things. You're speaking badly against someone for whatever reason. Maybe they deserve it, doesn't matter. But you see, if you're working on yourself, and that's the goal, is to continue to raise yourself to higher standards, to higher levels, and you're going to learn more and more and more to get to that goal, then that's going to strengthen not only our belief in God, but we'll keep the mitzvahs properly, better, and we'll be most, we'll be, I wouldn't say most, we'll be less likely to transgress. Even though we're human, we make mistakes. Sometimes we'll do things in anger, knee-jerk reaction. We won't think about what we said, and, all of a sudden, boom. We've already reacted and said something before we even had a chance to think about it. Right? It's a common, it's a common problem. Nonetheless, the more we're involved, the more we realize what our purpose is in the world. And the goal, getting close to God. And that's only through one way, and that's through learning Torah. Can't do it any other way. But you also have to learn, works of ethics to make you realize what you're doing in this world. And what happens by what you do. Now, even if we understand, even if it would be shown graphically to us what our action or reaction has caused in the physical world and the spiritual world, wouldn't that cause us to be different people? So we don't live with the zap treatment. That if we do something wrong, bam, right? Just like in this case. Right? In times of the Torah, person spoke Lashon Hara, zap, got tzaras. Had to be, kicked out of the camp, etc. We don't have that today. Does it mean it's not real? It just means we don't see it. So that means also we have to work on ourselves tremendously. Even if we don't see it. Because we don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. For years, I mentioned this before, another video, that, before the invention of the microscope, doctors, would say there are genes, there's DNA, but they couldn't see it. Didn't mean it didn't exist. Just they needed something, more powerful to be able to see it. But, see throughout history, these people are heretics, they don't know what they're talking about, just a leap of faith. I mean, you don't see that. Well, you say, well, that's different, that's science, that's, that could be proven. This can't be proven. As my Rebbe's always fond of saying, I never met anyone who's been in that world and come back, meaning the spiritual world. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Right? It's a good question why it's not part of the 13 principles. Right? Of Maimonides. Right? The basic tenets of Judaism. There's a whole discussion I'm not going to go into now. But, it's important that we believe in it. But we're not keeping the mitzvahs because of it. Because at the end of the day, we believe this to be absolute. Right? The Torah is absolute, doesn't change. So even if the back of our minds we understand that we're going to get reward for what we're doing, that's the question. Are we doing it because of that, and my belief is really weak because I'm only doing it for that reason? Am I doing it because I really believe it? So someone once asked me, or said, they said, well, when I die, I'm only going 6 feet under. So I said, well, I hope for your sake you're right, because if I'm right, you're in big trouble. Meaning that there's repercussions for your actions. So the person turned around and said, what would happen if you found out after 120 years, you find out you die like a dog? Right? Dog only has a animalistic soul. It dies, that's it. Nothing. No resurrection, nothing. It dies. Body disintegrates. That's it. Finished. So that was the question. So my answer was, I think you're wrong. But even if I were to say that you're right, so I said, find me a better system that gives meaning to life, that can be passed down to the next generation, on a regular basis, and it works. You find me a better system, We'll have a discussion. So then you can say, well, maybe the Hindus think they have it right, the Buddhists think they have it right. Could be, right? They can claim, they can claim whatever they want. But see, even if it wasn't true, even if, God forbid, it wasn't true, is there any better system out there that gives meaning in every aspect of your life? Meaning, you wake up in the morning, you already have what to do, right? You thank God for giving you your soul back. You're already making a blessing after you've gone to the bathroom, right? Then then it's getting dressed in prayer, etc. So even you're going out to work, doesn't matter. There are mitzvahs to do while you're there. Also, you eat, you make a blessing. Middle of work, you pray. If you can. Now summertime a little bit easier, right? But since sundown is later. Nonetheless, throughout the day, we're doing things that hopefully are helping our soul. A person comes home, let's say, after work, they eat something, help a little bit with the kids, they go out to learn, right? Because the obligation to learn, you're only exempt, if you're working, because you have to make a livelihood. So you're not making a livelihood, you have an obligation to learn. So it governs every aspect of your life. From when you wake up in the morning to when you go to sleep. You make blessings, you pray. There are holidays. There are laws guarding how we speak. Not that you're not allowed to speak, but how you're allowed to speak. And learning and relationships. There's everything that goes on in life dictated by the Torah. Now, as the Ramchal says in Derech Hashem, so why did God set this up in the first place? So the Ramchal at the beginning says, God created the world because he wanted to be a meitiv. A meitiv means he wants to give over his goodness. Now you ask, how do we define that? How is God's goodness defined? Well, he gave us a book made by the manufacturer himself. It's called the Torah. He wanted to give of his goodness and set up in a way that we could gain the most benefit in order to reach our potential. Right? He speaks about it in the second chapter, in the first section of Derech Hashem, the way of God. So in short, he put all these things in the world, these things that lack and don't lack, etc., in order to give us the ability to tap in. But he says clearly in the Torah, I'm going to give you the ability to tap in, now this is my language, according to my way. So you're going to say, do we take everything literally? Well, that's why we have an oral tradition at the same time. Because otherwise we wouldn't understand what the Torah meant. When the Torah says an eye for an eye, does it mean if someone poked your eye out, you take their eye out? No. Right? The rabbis tell us it means you have to pay monetary damage. Question is, what is that monetary damage exactly? Right? Without a running commentary, we wouldn't understand. Virtually anything. So here the Torah says, God gives you this book. Give it over to Moshe. Moshe writes it down, not exactly in the order of the way things happen, but Moshe writes it down, not allowed to change anything. He's God's scribe. So, prophecy goes through Moshe, he can't change anything or add, or subtract anything from the Torah, right? If you do, then you're a heretic, you are a false prophet. So God gave a system. And he's saying, I have this system, it works. When you do it right, it works. You mess around with it, you play with it, you change it, you turn it into hocus pocus, whatever it is. You feel like doing it, you don't feel like doing it, it's a disaster. Right? You don't need my agreement with that. Statistics show it. Right? There's no argument. 13 million Jews don't know anything about Judaism. 60-70% intermarriage rate. Disaster. Mostly because of lack of education. They're not interested. They're apathetic. Most people think, some people think they think, 95% would rather die than think. That's the world we live in. God didn't want it. God doesn't want that. He's given us the ability to tap into spirituality. But he gave us free will. You want to tap in? God will allow us to. You don't want to tap in? Take fantasy. But that's the reality. Right? It's one way or the other. So, he's given us an opportunity. But if the opportunity, let's say, the way the world's set up, in a perfect world, if we lived in a perfect world, 99.9%, or even better, 100% of the time it would work. Now we're humans, so we got problems. And we can make problems. So we'll make it a little bit less than 100%. Right? If we were perfect, there'd be nothing to talk about. In a non-perfect world, because we messed it up, all things being equal, it should work. Now, there could be issues along the way. Could be deterrents along the way that make it difficult, no question. Right? But that's for us to overcome. That's for us to rise to the occasion. Here what happens is if we do what we're supposed to, exactly how God told us to do it, then that's it. We should be successful. We should be spiritually superior. Meaning we should raise ourselves to such high spiritual levels because we believe it's the real thing. And this is the only way to get there. Now, if God is absolute, which the Rambam establishes, the beginning of 13 principles, if God is absolute, he rewards and punishes, he knows the thoughts of man, things don't change, then it works. Can he get messed up? Yes. Is it his fault? No. It's our fault, because we're human. But even if that's true, he gave us the base. And the base is do it this way. Because this way works. It's been proven. The more the Jews stray from the Torah, the more there's assimilation, the more things don't go our way. The more we attach ourselves to Torah, the better off we are. That's pretty clear throughout history. All you have to do is read through Tanakh. It's like a sine curve. When the Jews are doing the right thing, they're up. When Jews are doing the wrong thing, they go down. Up, down, up, down. Based on us. Based on what we do. So back to our case of the Metzora. It's very easy to speak against other people. We can justify it a million ways. At the end of the day, it's forbidden. So it comes on the Medrash, and the Medrash says, you want to know how you can guard yourself? You can guard yourself very easily. I wouldn't say very easily, but you can guard yourself by doing good. So you say, that's so nice, doing good. What in the world does that mean? Well, for you it means this. For someone else it means something else. Have you ever heard people say, I'm good in my heart. I'm a Jew at heart. Does that mean your heart should go to heaven? What does that mean? How do you define goodness? Goodness is relative. The famous parable with the Dubna Maggid, that a king walks in the forest and he sees all these trees with bullseyes, with arrows shot in bullseyes. So he says, oh, I got to find this, marksman, teach my men how to shoot. Finds the marksman. He says, can you teach my men how to shoot? He goes, yeah, it's very simple. I take my bow and arrow, go, shh. I shoot it in the sky. When it hits a tree, I draw a bullseye around it. So what's the parable? So that bullseye changes. That bullseye is what we call moral relativism. 30 years ago, something that would have been absolutely forbidden and horrific, today becomes a mitzvah. Why? Times change. Styles change. Mores change. It can change with the drop of a hat. It can change for a stupid reason. I saw something recently, someone put up and said, how come people don't dress better? Dress more stylish, right? That was 50 years ago. Things changed. We're more relaxed. We want to dress more casually. You don't want to be all dressed up. See, that's more relativism. You're okay, I'm okay, but things change. And what happened today may not be the same tomorrow. It may be, may not. But again, things that would have been absolutely forbidden, even though people might have done it, behind closed doors, right? 20, 30 years later, it's well, what are you, square? What, do you live in Victorian England? Who are we kidding? That's why the Torah cannot be that way. That's why when you cut it up, so to speak, you take God out of the picture. He's not absolute. If he's not absolute, says the Rambam, others as well, it's not Torah. It doesn't change. I feel like doing something. I don't feel like doing it. Yeah, you want to think I want to eat 35 pounds of matzah in 35 seconds and whistle Dixie? So the Torah says, got to do it. All right, maybe 33 pounds, maybe 29, according to some others. Right? You got to eat a lot of matzah at night to Seder. You got to get it right. You got to lean. It's whatever. It's the whole thing. Speaking about Passover, coming up. But you have to ask yourself, if you have a question, like, is this all really true? Did it really happen? So let's take the Exodus, right? Take the Exodus for a second. You look what happened, all the plagues, right? And that's what, we'll mention in the Haggadah, but all the plagues, etc. Imagine all these plagues and different things that happened. How do we know it's true? Because our fathers told us the story. How did his father know it was true? Because his father told him the story. Normally, a father is not going to lie to his son. Normally. Today it might be different, but normally that wouldn't be the case. Alright, sorry, that would not be the case. Not going to lie. So, you take one event in history happened thousands of years ago. There are many Jewish people, secular, that put a mezuzah on the door. Hopefully, it's got the right parchment inside that makes it kosher. But, for argument's sake, they put up a mezuzah. Why? It's a Jewish thing to do. You put up a mezuzah. What's in the mezuzah? It talks about the Shema. It talks about the coming out of Egypt. It's sort of that spark of the Yid. You say, do you realize what you're putting up on your door? Okay, most people only do it on the front door, not all their doors, except the bathroom door. But, imagine if someone's putting up their mezuzah, you say, wait, before you do it, you realize what's inside that parchment? You know what the history is? How people were born saying Kriyat Shema. When they go to sleep, they say Kriyat Shema, they say the Shema. Right before they die, they'll say the Shema as well, in the form of confession. Because at the end of the day, we're still all believing Jews. Some more, some less. It also speaks about the exodus from Egypt. So imagine, okay, guy takes out his hammer, he's banging it. Exodus from Egypt, plagues, frogs, lice, animals, death of the firstborn. Guy's like, leave me alone. I'm just banging in the mezuzah. Bang, bang, bang. It's like, no, don't you get it? Blood, frogs. It's what our forefathers went through. And you put it on your door because you want your house guarded. You want God's presence to guard you because you know why they put up mezuzahs there? Because remember when they came out of Egypt, what was the last thing they had to do? After going through everything they went, they had to kill an animal. They had to kill a shepsela, as they call it, a sheep. The Egyptian god in front of the Egyptians. Take the blood and put it on their doorpost. That way, when the killing of the firstborn came, God said, don't leave your house. And when you put the blood up, when the blood's up, I'll pass over. Get it? Pass over. And you won't die. And the Egyptians will die. The blood. That's the whole thing here. Why God made them go through that. Right? That's what Shabbos Hagadol, this Shabbos is. That's what one of the things we commemorate or we think about. The miracle. I mean, you're going to kill their God in front of them? No repercussions? Imagine you walk down, downtown, in India. Take the cow and say, bye guys, I'm making burgers. That's going to go over great. I'm sure everyone will say, yep, clear the way. He's making burgers. He's going to kill the cow, going to make burgers. Sure. They'll make you into a burger. At least one. One big one. They're like, Moshe, you crazy? We've gone through all this. We have to kill the Egyptian god? Yeah. You can stay in Egypt. You don't kill the animal, you don't get out. That's an unbelievable thing. You have to wait for my webinar next week to see what the answer is. There, I'll just ask the question. But, back not to get lost over here. Right? So you're banging on the mezuzah. Right? The person's banging on the mezuzah. Don't you know what that is? Don't you know what it represents? It's history. It's like, yeah, I'm putting it up. Don't bother me with history. But then why are you doing it? That's what do you do? A Jewish person does. They put it on the door. This is the bread and butter of the Jewish people. However much someone believes or doesn't believe. Right, but that's what we should be thinking. You kiss the mezuzah on the way out, kiss on the way in. It's not a belief in nothing. It's not if I feel like doing it, fine. If not, this happened. How do we know it happened? We have proof. Right? Again, I have to wait for, next week I'll make a separate video about Passover. Independent of the webinar. Anyway, there's a richness to our heritage. Sure, we've never met anyone who's been in that world and been back, even though there have been a number of people that have hovered between life and death and came back, right? But the reality is, when it comes to the world to come, we don't know. It's very much unclear. But aren't we a link in a chain? Aren't we a link in a chain to history? We're an absolute link. If the bottom line is our insides, the spark of the soul didn't believe it, why in the world did you put up a mezuzah? Now, even the most secular Jew, if they put up a mezuzah, not everybody does, but if someone puts up a mezuzah, there's that spark from somewhere. Maybe from grandparents, from parents, or way back, even to Mount Sinai. Person is not going to put a box on the door for no reason. But so we live 3,000 years later. And 3,000 years later, you put the mezuzah on the door, oh yeah, it's a nice box. It has no relevance to a lot of people. Then you say, well, why are you going to put it up? Because again, it's the spark. It's a spark that everybody has. Every Jew has. Every convert or wannabe convert will have that as well. That will mean that their souls on Mount Sinai just got messed up and now they have to go through conversion. But that's what we should be thinking. And even if the person doesn't think it, the person's banging, I was like, just leave me alone. I'm just going to put it up. Just leave me alone. Stop hawking me about this. Like, but don't you get it? It's about the blood. It's about the vermin. It's about the animals. It's about Yichud Hashem. It's about God as one. There is no other one but Him. He's the one who runs the world. You know how I know He runs the world? Because He took us out of Egypt. That one event. Massive ramifications. In so many things that we do. Oh, bang, bang, bang on the mezuzah. Okay, I'm done. But see, the soul knows. Even if the person doesn't get it, the soul knows. Even if you give it lip service. Has an effect somewhere. Doesn't mean it always manifests itself. Has the potential to. So I always thought years ago that it's better for somebody to do nothing than to do something that doesn't make any sense. Or to pick and choose, or to do very little, or to give a lip service. So I always thought that if you do nothing, okay, at least you're honest, you don't do anything. But what if you do something? So I also thought, okay, they're doing something, it doesn't make any sense. They're doing it wrong, the wrong time, they don't believe in it. I mean, you sit them down, they don't believe in it. But they do it anyway. Right? By like having a Passover Seder, going to synagogue Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. I say, why do something like that? It's false. The people around you are false. Not interested in being closer to God. They can't say, oh, when is the rabbi going to finish speaking? This is taking way too long. Why is the air conditioner off? It's a little bit warm in here. Right? They're thinking about everything under the sun except for what they should be doing there. Right? So I would have thought like this. So don't bother going. By going, it's a joke. Right? It's, as I've heard people say, yeah, it's theatrics. The rabbi has to be theatrical. Bring people in, keep their attention. It's going to be like, a Hollywood movie. Different ways. I mean, it's pathetic, but, it's the reality. You want fantasy? You want to go 2 days a year? Have a Passover Seder? Okay, it's fantasy. Is that better than doing nothing? So I've changed my tune a little bit. I don't think it's better than nothing. The reason is because even if it's wrong, even if they don't believe in it, even if they give it lip service, they're still doing something. That something may have an effect. Maybe. Maybe generate a question. They go look for an answer. Maybe they come in contact with it. I don't know. Whatever it is. I'm getting, as I get older, you say you get wiser. You rethink certain things. I'm not 100% convinced, but I guess over the years I've mellowed. In some ways. Some people say that's totally not true, but that could be. That could be. Nonetheless, they've done something. Is it going to stick? It could be 25 years later. Maybe it has an effect. Maybe it's 40 years later. Someone just contacted me recently. They said they want to learn about Torah, and they're in their early 70s. He said, where in the world do I start to learn? It's a good question. Never too late. Rabbi Kiva was 40 when he started to learn. And he had to go back to Cheder with his kid. Like 6-year-olds. We're in the Aleph base. Look who Rabbi Kiva became. Right? He transmitted the oral tradition of 5 of his students before he got killed. And that's why we have oral tradition today, because through Rabbi Akiva. Truly amazing. So you don't know what sparks a person. What sparked Rabbi Akiva? Talmud says he saw water dripping. Dripping on a rock. He saw around him. Like these rocks had holes in them, whatever. So imagine water drip, 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 drip. How much effect is it going to have a rock? That eventually the rock's going to wilt away. Made him think. Through that, he came to the whole conclusion. He comes back to Torah. He comes to Torah. We don't know. We don't know what moves people. We don't know what's going to get someone to change. So, the best we can do is plant seeds. And maybe later on, these seeds will produce growth. But it has to be genuine. It cannot be, as my Rebbe here says, you learn Torah, you learn a lot of Torah, it doesn't mean you're perfect. Doesn't mean you don't have bad character traits. Doesn't mean you won't speak Lashon Hara. But you see, the more you learn, the higher awareness you have. When you have that higher awareness, what does it do? It makes you become more careful. Imagine if years before, you would curse like everybody curses. You tried to work on yourself. Let's say 10 minutes a day not to curse. I'll be nice. Half an hour a day. This half an hour, I'm not going to curse. And you work on that for a long time. Then you say, all right, for an hour I'm not going to do it. For 2 hours, whatever. You gradually go up. And eventually you stop cursing. It's going to take a long time, but eventually you'll stop cursing. Imagine when you have that first test. Building your sukkah, bang, 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 right hammer. Now, this obviously never happened to me, right? God's gift to, being, carpentry and fixing things and everything else. You're looking at him right here. Yeah, right. Anyway, bang, 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 wham! Right hammer, left thumb. Imagine you've been working for so long not to curse. And the first thing you say is, but you don't say it. You say, unbelievable. Look what I did. I banged my thumb. My thumb is now 3 times the size of my hand. Tremendous amount of pain, but I didn't curse. Say, wow, look at all that work. Look what I accomplished. So that's an amazing thing. Right, we'll take the positive. The negative could be, did you think the 4-letter words? If you thought about the 4-letter words, you still have what to work on. Don't think you've overcome it. If you didn't curse, tremendous thing. Tremendous. You thought the words? Okay. There are different levels to reach. But you have to have awareness. Awareness means the heart is beating. Bum, 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 bum. Right? The heart is beating for spirituality. But you absolutely 100%, as God says, and the Ramchal brings down, it has to be done in a certain way. If it's not done in a certain way, i.e. the way God wants, as the Torah set up, not about changing things, if I feel like doing it, fine, maybe I'm not holding there, this, whatever it is, not going to stick. Can't. Unless the person's growing, he's saying, I'm not holding there yet, whatever. If he brings in these other ideologies, he's finished. It'll never stick. And the person can know 10 times more Torah, 20 times, billion times more than I'll ever know. 10 lifetimes. At the end of the day, it's just mental gymnastics. It'll never stick. It's not possible. What's the reason? The reason is because it's not real. The reason is what I call travesty, mockery of a sham. It's trying to build a 3-legged table if it's not round. It doesn't stand. Just mental gymnastics. Has no connection to your life. That's what my Rebbe here says. If you're oisek b'Torah, if you're learning Torah, and you're taking the message to heart, and you want to change, even if you don't change straight away, even if you don't change next week, but you want to change and you want to grow and do these things and reach higher levels, you're going to get there eventually. Some more, some less, doesn't matter what obstacles are in front of you. What is going to happen is you're going to have that higher awareness. The doing good, the learning Torah, is going to push away speaking Lashon Hara. Got to nip it in the bud. Why? Because I have much higher awareness. Why would I do that? You have to work at it. You have to figure out a plan how to do it. But that's how you get there. And the more you learn, you'll see, the more building blocks, one on top of the other, the more knowledge you get. Doesn't mean it's easier. It means you have a higher awareness. You have that higher awareness, now you have other tools at your fingertips, what you can use to offset and to make a plan to stop doing the bad things that we do. That's the goal. I just want to mention, again, I give conversion classes and Noahide classes. Take a look at my Facebook fan page, Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism, or Beyond Noahides. I also have a blog, new website. It's very nice. Take a look. It's at orthodoxconversion.com. Anyone wants to contact me, you can send me an email, rabbichaimcoffman@gmail.com, rabbichaimcoffman@gmail.com. I also give a class in Derech Hashem, in the Way of God, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, I guess, which is tonight. And I'm also, in a week's time, a week from tonight, I'm also, or it's actually Monday night, a week from past Monday night, is going to be a webinar on Passover, a number of things in, about Passover in the Haggadah that probably most people haven't thought about or haven't really gone through, which I'm going to explain there. Anyone interested in that can contact me or see on the various sites that I'm a part of, and they can take a look at that. So I wish everyone a happy cleaning during the week for Passover, and everyone should have a great Shabbos.